Before we start, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. Only 4% of my channel is subscribed. When it reaches 1,000 subscribers, I will release a special video.
Chapter 4, Rallying the Ranks. The cold, unyielding light of Altair's twin suns cast long shadows across the rocky landscape as Princess Aria gazed out from the makeshift command center. The humans of Altair had transformed a forgotten mining facility into the heart of their resistance. Here, in this labyrinth of tunnels and caverns, the echoes of 1,000 footsteps and the constant hum of activity filled the air, creating a symphony of defiance against the impending storm. Aria had never seen anything like it. On Vesper, everything had been sleek and orderly, with a sterile efficiency that spoke to centuries of uninterrupted peace. But here, there was a raw energy, a palpable determination that permeated every corner of the facility. These humans, with their mismatched armor and eclectic weaponry, were preparing to face an enemy that most of the galaxy feared to even name. General Harlan, a grizzled veteran with a patch over one eye and scars crisscrossing his weathered face, stood at the center of a large holographic display. He gestured with a metal pointer, tracing the anticipated trajectory of the Exar fleet. Around him, officers and soldiers, each bearing the marks of countless skirmishes, listened intently, their expressions a mix of grim resolve and fierce determination. "Our intelligence indicates that the Exar will strike within the next 48 hours, Harlan growled, his voice like gravel being ground underfoot. "They're bringing everything they've got. We're outgunned and outnumbered, but we're not outmatched." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. Aria, standing beside Harlan, felt a surge of admiration for these people who had taken her in without hesitation. They had no reason to fight her battles, yet they had embraced her cause as their own. "Princess," Harlan said, turning to her, "your knowledge of Exar tactics will be invaluable. We need every advantage we can get." Aria nodded, stepping forward to address the assembly. Her heart pounded, but she drew strength from the faces around her. "The Exar rely on their technological superiority and brute force," she began, "but they underestimate us. They believe we will break under their assault, but they don't understand the strength of those who fight for their home and their freedom." Her words were met with cheers and raised fists. The energy in the room crackled, a tangible force that seemed to grow with every moment. Aria continued outlining what she knew of the Exar's strategies and weaknesses, each point met with nods and murmurs of approval. As the meeting adjourned, the humans dispersed to their tasks, each step filled with purpose. Engineers worked furiously to reinforce the facility's defenses, welding and bolting makeshift barriers. Technicians tinkered with an array of devices, repurposing mining equipment into weapons of war. Soldiers drilled in the open spaces, their movements sharp and precise, a testament to their rigorous training. In the midst of this organized chaos, Aria found herself drawn to a small group of soldiers gathered around a table covered in maps and schematics. At their center was Captain Elias, a young officer with a sharp mind and a sharper tongue. His blue eyes flickered with an intensity that matched the fire in his heart. "Princess," Elias greeted her with a nod, his voice respectful but not deferential. "We're planning our hit, and run tactics. The Exar won't know what hit them." Aria leaned in, studying the maps. Elias grinned, a wolfish smile that promised trouble for their enemies. As they worked together, Aria couldn't help but be impressed by Elias's strategic acumen. He was a natural leader, his confidence infectious, his plans bold and daring. Under his guidance, the soldiers refined their tactics, preparing to become ghosts in the battlefield, striking from the shadows and fading before the Exar could respond. In another corner of the facility, Aria encountered Dr. Amelia Frost, the head medic. The makeshift infirmary was a hive of activity, with medics preparing supplies and triaging patients from earlier skirmishes. Amelia, a woman with a calm demeanor and a steady hand, was coordinating efforts with a precision born of experience. "Princess, I could use your help," Amelia said without preamble. Aria rolled up her sleeves and joined the effort, her previous life as a healer blending seamlessly with her new role. She moved among the wounded, tending to injuries, offering words of comfort and hope. The soldiers, initially surprised to see their princess in such a role, soon accepted her presence, her actions speaking louder than any title. The hours passed in a blur of preparation and anticipation. The facility buzzed with a frenetic energy as final checks were made, weapons distributed and plans solidified. As night fell, the humans of Altair gathered in the central cavern, a sea of determined faces lit by the soft glow of emergency lights. General Harlan addressed them one last time, his voice carrying through the space with the weight of authority and the warmth of camaraderie. Tonight, we stand not just for ourselves, but for our future. For every world oppressed by the XR, for every voice silenced by their tyranny, we will show them that the spirit of Altair cannot be broken. Arya stood beside him, her heart swelling with pride and resolve. Together, we are stronger than they can imagine, she declared. Tonight, we fight not just for survival, but for a new dawn. The cheers that followed were a thunderous roar, echoing through the caverns and out into the cold night of Altair. As the humans of Altair readied themselves for the battle to come, they knew that whatever the outcome, they had already won greater victory, unity, courage, and the unbreakable bond forged in the crucible of war. Chapter 5: Guerrilla Skies. The first skirmishes with the XR were as sudden as they were brutal. Scout ships, sleek and predatory, slipped through the star-studded blackness towards Altair, their arrival heralded by the ominous pulse of quantum drives cutting through the cosmic silence. These were the eyes and ears of the XR fleet, sent to probe the defenses of a species they deemed little more than barbarians. They expected minimal resistance, primitive tech barely suitable for interplanetary travel. What they encountered instead was a people ignited by the fire of survival and a princess who had become their unlikely standard bearer. As the first XR ships breached Altair's outer orbit, they were met not by sophisticated war machines but by a barrage of improvised missiles and traps set across likely flight paths. Mines made from repurposed spacecraft fuel cells, rigged to detonate on contact. The humans had turned their deficiencies into strengths, their territory into a lethal maze. Lieutenant Harlan Knox, a veteran of border skirmishes and now a central figure in the resistance, coordinated the attacks from Altair's makeshift command center, a bunker buried beneath the craggy surface of Altair Ive's largest moon. Beside him, Princess Arya watched, her face a mask of determination tinged with fear. Each explosion that lit up the monitor was a life lost, possibly human, certainly Xar. Harlan noticed her flinch with every burst of static that signified a successful hit. "We're not just fighting for Altair," Harlan reminded her, his voice rough like the gravelly plains of his homeworld. "We're fighting for the right to exist, to be acknowledged as equals in this galaxy." Arya nodded, her gaze fixed on the screens. "And we will show them that our spirit is not measured by the might of our weapons, but by the courage of our hearts," she affirmed, her voice growing steadier with each word. The guerrilla tactics bewildered the XR. Accustomed to straightforward battles and overwhelming firepower, they faltered under the relentless and unpredictable human assault. Small, agile human fighter craft darted through asteroid fields and debris, luring the Axar into dangerous territories where spatial anomalies disrupted their navigation systems. Every trap sprung and every scout ship disabled was a victory, each adding to the growing legend of human ingenuity and bravery. As the sun dipped below the horizon of Altair III, casting long shadows over the command center, a critical moment arrived. A squadron of Xar cruisers, larger and more formidable, made a calculated push towards the planet's atmosphere. It was a clear attempt to break the siege and land troops on the surface. Harlan and his team responded with a pre-planned counterstrike. From hidden bases on the dark side of Altair's moons, human pilots launched in old but retrofitted interceptors, their hulls patched with armor salvaged from derelict stations and their weapons a mix of traditional projectiles and stolen Xar technology. Arya's heart raced as she observed the ballet of warfare unfold in space. Each interceptor pilot was a volunteer, aware of the risks and willing to pay the ultimate price for their newfound ally and their home. Their ships, marked with the emblem of Altair, a phoenix rising, swooped and spun through space, a dance of defiance against the XR oppressors. The battle stretched into hours, the darkness of space intermittently lit by the blaze of cannon fire and exploding craft. Against all odds, the human strategy of hit-and-run tactics began to wear down the XR forces, their formations breaking as they chased shadows that moved just beyond reach. By the time the first light of dawn touched the command center's threshold, the XR had retreated, their numbers diminished, their morale shattered. Altair's skies, though scarred by battle, were theirs once more. Harlan turned to Arya, a smile breaking across his weathered face. "Looks like your highness can hold her ground," he joked, the tension easing from his shoulders. Arya returned the smile, her respect for these primitive warriors deepening. "It seems I'm learning from the best," she replied, her eyes bright with the fires of victory and a burgeoning hope. Together, they had turned the tide, but the war was just beginning. Chapter 6: Bonds of War. In the heart of the Altair territory, amidst the rumbling engines of warships and the clatter of hurried preparations, a different kind of transformation was taking place. The air, thick with the metallic tang of ionized plasma, was also charged with a sense of purpose and unity rarely seen in the galaxy. Among the humans, Princess Arya found not only protectors, but teachers and comrades. As the shadow of the XR Empire loomed ever closer, Arya shed the last remnants of her royal isolation to don the garb of a medic, her hands, once adorned with jewels, now steadied by the resolve to heal. The medical bay was rudimentary, pieced together from scavenged parts and donated equipment from sympathetic allies. It was here, under the stark white lights, that Arya began her real education. Dr. Emily Rostov, a veteran of interstellar conflicts and a master of makeshift medicine, became Arya's mentor. Emily's hands, lined and worn from years of service, moved with precision and grace, teaching Arya not just the mechanics of medicine, but the art of compassion. "Every wound tells a story, Arya," Emily would say, her voice firm yet kind. "Our job isn't just to heal the body, but to understand the pain behind the injury. Remember, these soldiers aren't just fighting for territory. They're fighting for their home, for a chance at a better future." As Arya learned to suture wounds and mix antibiotics, she also listened to the soldiers' stories. Each tale was a thread in the rich tapestry of human resilience. There was Lieutenant Mara Jennings, who had joined the Defense Force after losing her family to a Xar raid. Her grief was her armor, her rage a weapon sharper than any blade. Then there was young Corporal Liam Brooks, whose laughter could light up the dreariest days, fighting to ensure his younger siblings would grow up under peaceful stars. The medical bay became a place of solace, where soldiers not only found healing, but also share their hopes and fears. Arya, once a distant princess, now became a confidant and friend. Her ability to empathize, shaped by her own losses and her flight from oppression, allowed her to connect deeply with those who came under her care. One evening, as a storm of meteor showers painted fiery trails across the sky, a major offensive was launched by the XR. The medical bay quickly overflowed with the wounded. Arya and Emily worked tirelessly, their hands steady despite the chaos. Amidst the groans and the beeping monitors, Arya found herself performing a critical surgery on Mara Jennings, who had been badly injured in an explosion. "Stay with me, Mara," Arya whispered, her voice a calm anchor in the storm. As she worked, Arya felt a profound connection to the human spirit, their indomitable will to survive and protect what was dear. The surgery was grueling but successful. As Mara's steady breathing returned, Arya felt a surge of relief and fulfillment. She was no longer just a refugee. She was a defender, a healer, a part of this brave community. In the days that followed, word of Arya's courage and compassion spread throughout the fleet. She was no longer seen as just an alien princess. She was one of them, a symbol of their shared struggle. Her presence lifted the spirits of the fighters, her blue skin and regal bearing now marks of pride among the ranks. As Arya walked through the corridors of the base, the soldiers saluted not just her crown, but her spirit and her dedication. In those moments, amidst the backdrop of war and the relentless pursuit of freedom, bonds forged in the crucible of conflict became unbreakable. The humans of Altair, once considered primitive, were teaching the galaxy the true meaning of civilization: unity, sacrifice, and the relentless pursuit of hope. Chapter 7: Siege of Altair. In the makeshift war room, maps and screens flickered under the steady gaze of General Carter, the leader of Altair's defense forces. Beside him stood Princess Arya, her face a mask of serene determination. Once a royal heir, she now donned the rugged fatigues of a fighter, her presence a rallying beacon for all who prepared to defend their home. "Today, we defend not just Altair, but the spirit of freedom itself," Carter declared, his voice reverberating through the assembled crowd of soldiers and volunteers. Murmurs of agreement swelled into a chorus of assent, the air electric with resolve. The XR initiated their assault with a barrage of energy cannons, the blasts painting the skies in hues of deadly emerald. But the humans, forewarned and forearmed, were not caught unprepared. Utilizing the intricate network of caves and underground bunkers they had fortified, they evaded initial destruction, emerging like phantoms to strike at the vulnerable flanks of the Axar armada. Arya, alongside a squad of Altair's finest, manned anti-aircraft lasers, their shots precise, each burst of light slicing through the void to find its mark. She had learned their ways, their language, and now their mode of warfare. With each ship that burst into a cascade of sparks, a cheer erupted, bolstering the spirits of those who fought with everything they had. Below, in the shadowed trenches carved from the rugged terrain, small squads of human fighters launched guerrilla attacks. They used the planet's magnetic anomalies to disrupt Xar navigation, drawing enemy fighters into traps set with explosive charges and antimatter mines. The landscape itself, with its jagged peaks and steep valleys, became a weapon channeled and wielded by those who knew its secrets best. As the day wore into night, a critical moment arrived. The XR, frustrated by their losses, deployed their elite ground forces, intending to crush resistance through sheer power. But here, too, they found no easy victory. Led by Lieutenant Mara, a fierce strategist who had risen from the ranks, the human fighters engaged in brutal close-quarters combat. Each encounter was a testament to the human will, a dance of fury and fints that whittled away at the invaders' resolve. Princess Arya, never far from the heart of the battle, now found herself in the midst of a skirmish that would define the outcome of the siege. As a Xar commander, massive and encased in shimmering armor, advanced towards a critical command post, Arya stepped forward. Her hand clasped the hilt of a plasma blade, a symbol of her transformation from a ruler to a warrior. With a cry that echoed the defiance of her people, she engaged the commander. The duel was a clash of contrasting philosophies as much as a battle of blades. Every strike by the Axar commander was met with Arya's graceful parries and counters. Around them, the battle raged on, but in this moment, their struggle became the center of the universe. With a deft maneuver, Arya found her opening, her blade piercing the commander's armor and ending the duel. As the commander fell, a wave of shock and awe rippled through the Axar ranks, their invincible leader defeated by a human princess. Seizing the moment, General Carter ordered a final push, and as if driven by the very spirit of the cosmos, the humans rallied with renewed vigor. By the first light of the following dawn, the remnants of the XR fleet retreated, leaving behind a battered but unbowed planet. Altair had held firm, not just preserved, but sanctified by the valor of its defenders. Princess Arya, once a beacon of royalty, now stood among her fellow warriors, not above them, her legacy forever intertwined with this brave world that had become her home. As the survivors gathered to survey the cost and cherish the victory, they knew this was but a respite. The battle for the galaxy's soul was just beginning, but on this day, in the siege of Altair, hope had been kindled, a flame that would light the stars with the promise of freedom. Chapter 8: Echoes of Rebellion. As the dust settled on the scarred battlegrounds of Altair, the light from its twin suns rose not just on a landscape of war, but on the dawn of change. The victory against the Azar was more than a military triumph. It was a clarion call to the oppressed across the galaxy. News of the defeat of the fearsome Xar fleet by the so-called primitive humans spread faster than light through the star systems, carried by every merchant ship, diplomatic envoy, and smuggled broadcast. Each tale spun a thread of hope through the hearts of those who had only whispered in shadows. Amidst this burgeoning rebellion, the Altair territory transformed from a secluded frontier into a bustling nexus of galactic resistance. Delegations from distant planets arrived in waves, each seeking to learn the art of resistance from those who had defied the impossible. They did not find warriors adorned with medals or armed with advanced weaponry. Instead, they met miners, farmers, and scholars, ordinary humans with extraordinary courage. In the heart of this whirlwind stood Princess Aria, her royal garments long replaced by the rugged attire of a rebel. Beside her, General Hanley, a grizzled veteran of Altair's forces, whose tactical genius had turned mining equipment and agricultural drones into tools of war. Together they addressed the gathered emissaries in the newly erected Hall of Unity, a massive structure built from the remnants of Axar ships. Each of you comes from a world where fear governs. General Hanley's voice boomed across the hall, the rough timber echoing off the metal walls. But fear is a chain that only holds as long as you permit it. We, who had little, believed in something greater than fear. We, who had little, believed in each other. Aria took the floor, her voice a stark contrast, soft yet imbued with an unyielding strength. Our victory was not won by weapons, but by will, by the belief that right must prevail over might. We stand ready to share all we know, but remember, true change comes not from replicating what one has done, but by adapting it to what you can do. As the days lengthened, the Altair base teemed with activity. Workshops sprang up teaching not only guerrilla tactics but also espionage, cyber warfare, and diplomacy. Aria personally led sessions on medical triage and care, turning the sick bays into classrooms where the anatomy of aliens was studied alongside strategies for survival. Each evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, the representatives gathered around large fires, sharing stories of their homeworlds, their struggles, and their dreams. It was here, under the blanket of stars, that a true understanding began to form. They were not just allies, they were becoming a family, bound by a common cause. The spirit of rebellion was palpable, igniting a fire in every heart that would soon spread across star systems. Plans were drawn, alliances forged, and promises made. The night before the delegations were to depart, Aria addressed the gathering for the last time. Tomorrow you will return to your homes, not as you came, but as bearers of a new dawn. Carry with you not just our tactics, but our spirit. Let it be known that from this small corner of the galaxy, a wave was started, a wave that will wash away oppression and bring forth a tide of justice and equality. Fireworks burst in the sky above, a celebration of light, mirroring the resolve of those below. As the sparks faded into the darkness, so did the delegations depart, each vessel a carrier of hope, each passenger a crusader for freedom. Thus, as the galaxy spun silently in the vast void, a new chapter began, written not by the mighty empires of old, but by the united, indomitable will of the once silenced. The echoes of their rebellion would resonate through the cosmos, a symphony of liberation that started with the unlikely victory on a small, brave world called Altair.